Alright, this video lesson is adding and subtracting decimals. I combined them into one because you do the same thing, you follow the same rule, and you guys have done this before. So adding and subtracting decimals, here we go. When we add or subtract decimals, we must always line up our, see if you can fill that in, our place values. Alright, so some people, you just line up the decimals, but really what we're doing is we're in line, we're putting those place values. So we need to line up our place values. So I have a little saying to get you guys to remember this, okay? And some of you already know because I've been kind of saying it throughout the year. And in order to remember to line up our place values, I'm going to say, line up the dots and give it all you got. Okay, so that's going to be our saying. So if you hear me saying that, that's what I'm talking about. And it comes from this guy who did all these videos. He quit teaching and made up all these math videos. And so he just has this like 10-minute video of him just saying line up the dots and give it all you got. So I'm gonna say that to you guys as you're working, and so it'll be a reminder to line up the dots. So fill that in. Line up the dots and give it all you got. Okay? So you're at home, you can be laughing at me on the video, and I wouldn't know about it, but that's okay. So line up the dots and give it all you got. Hopefully that'll ring in your head as we go. So here I'm going to line up my dots so that I can add these two decimals. So I'm going to add 2 and 24 hundredths and 9 hundredths. So hundredths have to line up with hundredths. So that's why we line up those decimals. So we lined up the dots. Now we got to give it all we got by adding. 9 and 4 gives me 13. 2 plus 1 is 3. Bring down the decimal just in line. So 24 hundredths plus 9 hundredths gives me 33 hundredths. And 2 ones plus 0 ones just gives me 2 and 33 hundredths. Okay. Example number 2. This is subtracting, but we don't subtract, we add the opposite. So I'm going to change this to addition, and I'm going to make 7 and 2 hundredths negative. So I have 45 and 8 tenths plus a negative 7 and 2 hundredths. So notice I put my 0 tenths and 8 tenths in line and 2 hundredths plus no hundredths. Okay, so no hundredths, same thing as 0 hundredths. Now I'm adding these, but I'm really finding the difference because I have different signs, a positive and a negative. When you add them, you find the difference and take the sign of the larger number. So the positive number is bigger than the negative, so the sign is going to be positive. So I'm going to bring down my sign just to make a little mental note so I don't mess it up in the end. Okay, now I'm really finding the difference. So the difference of 0 and 2, well, I can't take 2 away from 0, so I'm going to borrow. And then 7 minus 0 is 7, so 80 hundredths minus 2 hundredths is 78 hundredths. Makes sense? 5 minus 7, can't do that. I'm going to borrow here. 15 minus 7 is 8, and 3 minus 0 is just 3. So I get positive 38 and 78 hundredths. That's my answer. Okay. So, of course, I like to do real-life examples because I hate the question, when am I ever going to use this? Here it is. Here's when you're going to use it. Now, Angel's going to use it this time, okay? I like to just plug your names in. I know I'm posting this on YouTube, so Angel, I hope you're okay with it. So, Angel likes to shop. Hopefully you do. I don't know. And you buy a shirt at your favorite store for $23.79. But you pay with a $50 bill. So you get up to the cash register, you give them the shirt, and you give them a $50 bill. How much change are you going to get? Now, if you don't know how to subtract decimals, and you go shopping, the store could be ripping you off, and you never know it. So, you may want to learn how to subtract decimals. So we have $50 is what you handed the cashier, and you're taking away that $23.79 because that's what you're paying for the shirt. You can't just walk out with the shirt. Okay, so we're subtracting $23.79. But we don't really subtract, we have the opposite. But when we talk about money, we're going to say that we're taking this away from your $50. Okay, now this gets a little tricky. We're going to have to borrow. Can't borrow here, can't borrow here, can't borrow here. Oh, I have to borrow here. So that 5 becomes a 4, okay? And that would become a 10, but then I'm going to borrow, keep borrowing. So hopefully you know that these are all going to be 9s. That becomes the 10. Okay, you've borrowed enough to know that. 10 minus 9 is going to give us 1 hundredth. 9 minus 7 is 2. So we have 21 cents left over. And then from the 50, I'm going to subtract 23. So 9 minus 3 gives me 6. And 4 minus 2 gives me 2. So I'm going to end up with $26.21. as my change. So, if the cashier handed you a 20 and a 5, you'd say, whoa, wait a minute, you forgot $1.21, okay? And they'd be really impressed by your math, but please, please, please know how to subtract decimals, or the cashier may just rip you off a few dollars. You never know. All right, real life example number 2. We got a relay going on. All right, and this is the first period relay. We got Troy, Aiden, Dylan, and Jesse. You guys are running a 4x100 meter race. Now, if you don't know track, the 4x100 is each person runs 100 meters. That's a fourth of a way around the track. I'm going to show you a picture. Okay, here's my lovely track. Okay, so the starting person starts here, and they run 100 meters. That's the first turn. Okay, so this is my first runner. So this is Troy. Troy's got the first turn, and he runs this first turn, we learn, in 11 seconds, 11 34/100ths of a second. Okay, so nice job, Troy. That's pretty fast. So he runs the first leg, that's what we call it. The second leg is that stretch, that 100-meter stretch, and that's run by Aiden. So he's got the second stretch. And he runs it, we learn, in 12 200ths of a second. And then Dylan's got the third leg, or the second turn. And so Dylan's over here, and he runs, this is very, very important. And so Dylan runs it in 11 89/100ths of a second. And then this last stretch, this home stretch to the finish line, is run by Jesse. Okay? So Jesse can't let him down. Jesse runs it in 10, oh, he didn't let him down. 10, or he does not let them down, proper English, 10 99/100ths of a second. Okay, so nice job, Jesse. That's very, very impressive. Okay, the rest of you, got to catch up, a little sliding behind, but that's okay. Let's see how their numbers even out. So, Troy ran, hand off to Aiden, hand off to Dylan, hand off to Jesse, and let's see how fast they ran the total lap. Okay, so one lap is the same thing as 4 times each 100 meters. That's 400 meters. So we're going to add decimals. So it's very important that we lined up the decimals, or we'd end up with a wrong score, or a wrong time that they ran it in. So I'm going to add 9 and 9 gives me 18, 19, 20. 20 plus 4 is 24, so I'm going to have my 2, bring down my 4. 9 and 8 gives me 17, plus 0 is just 17, plus 3 is 20, plus 2 is 22. Bring down my decimal, don't forget about that. Now I'm going to add 1 and 2 is 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they ran it in 46 24/100ths of a, or 2400 seconds, so 46 seconds and then 2400ths of another second. So a little bit more than 46 seconds. Very impressive, okay? So if you would like to earn a positive point for tomorrow, right now you're already on your computer, okay? You can pause this and Google it if you want to. If you're just dying to know, if your curiosity is just getting the best of you, you can Google how far away from the world, it's supposed to say from the world record, so plug in record there, from the world record. Alright, so how far away from the world record was their time? So you're going to have to figure out the world record, okay, and it's on Google if you just Google world record for the 4x100 meter relay. And then you're going to have to find out the difference between their time and the world record. Okay, so bring me an answer tomorrow. I'll give you a positive point. You got to show me your work here. Okay, so it's a little added bonus for you. If you don't want to earn a positive point, you don't have to do that. But if you'd like to, you can. Okay, so checking for understanding problems. You know the drill. Pause the video, do this problem, and then play it, and you'll see if you get the right answer. All right, so first checking for understanding. I have a negative 8 34/100ths, and I'm adding 6 2/10ths. Okay? Now when I add a positive and a negative, they're different signs, so I'm finding the difference, which means I'm really subtracting them. I'm taking the difference of the two numbers. So I'm going to put a 0 here where I have a blank, and 4, the difference of 4 and 0 is just 4. The difference of 3 and 2 is 1, and the difference of 8 and 6 is 2. And then I take the sign of the larger number, and the larger number is negative. Okay, so hopefully you got that. Pause, do the next one, and then play the video. Alright, so now I'm subtracting. We know subtraction is now forbidden, so I'm going to add the opposite. A lot of you got in the habit of just adding. You got to add the opposite. So I have 55 and 897 thousandths. Excuse me. And I'm going to find the difference of 55 and 897 thousandths and 7 and 300ths. And I'm finding the difference because their signs end up being different, a positive and a negative. So even though I'm adding the opposite, with decimals, I'm really finding the difference. I'm really subtracting. Alright, so I'm going to add, and this one is negative. So which one is bigger, 55 and 897 thousandths? So I know my answer is going to be positive. Alright, and I'm going to just fill in a 0 here. So now I'm finding the difference. The difference of 7 and 0 is 7. The difference of 9 and 3 is 6. The difference of 8 and 0 is 8. Bring down my decimal. The difference of 5 and 7, well, I can't take 7 away from 5, so I need to borrow. The difference of 15 and 7 is 8, and the difference of 4 and nothing is just 4. So we have positive 48 and 867 thousandths. And that makes sense. Alright, and then the last one. Pause the video and then play it to see if you get the right answer. Alright, here I am subtracting a negative. Remember, subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive because I do same, change, opposite, and the opposite of a negative is a positive, or adding the opposite. So I have 0 and 9 hundredths, and I'm adding 2 and 4 tenths. So I'm going to put a 0 here to hold my hundredths place. There I have nothing, and nothing is the same thing as 0 in math. And 9 plus 0 hundredths gives me 9 hundredths. 4 tenths plus 0 tenths gives me 4 tenths. 2 plus 0 just gives me 2, and it's going to be positive. So I have 2 and 49 hundredths. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. You'll have practice to do in class tomorrow over adding and subtracting decimals, and then we'll move on from there to multiplying and dividing. Thanks, have a great evening.